Now that you know how to create custom fields and also move fields into regions, let's look at changing the generated markup of the field. So let's jump back into this Fields tab and let's go to Displays and then Settings. And we need to switch on Enable Field Templates under Settings. So let's just enable it and just leave everything as it is and click on Save Configuration. And then now if we go back to Manage Display and refresh, we should see all of these new options down here. Field template, you can see that it's all set to default. And let's now change the last modified field. So if we click on the cogwheel and then under choose a field template, select minimal and then click on update. And then if we refresh, let's inspect the element. And then if we check it out, you can see that there's a single div wrapping the field value. So it is a minimal field template. Take this one, for example, you have a few divs until you get to the field value. Now let's go back to our manage display and let's look at the other template. So click on the cogwheel again, and this time select full reset. Now this one will simply strip out all of the markup and just leave the field value. So as the name suggests, it is a full reset. So let's just scroll all the way down and click on save. And then if we refresh, you can see that there is nothing wrapping the last modified field. We just have the date. We just have the field value. I normally do not use this option, but it is there because I personally like to have a div wrapping particular fields, especially if you're doing a lot of styling, you need to have something wrapping the value, but it is there as an option. Now let's go back to manage display and let's use my favorite, which is expert. Now, don't be scared of the UI, okay? There are a lot of options here, but essentially what you can do is if you click on, say, field item, you can specify the element, the class, and even the attribute. So what we can do is, let's say we want to wrap the last modified with a span, and let's add in a class called last -- modified, and then click on update, and then click on save. And then if we refresh, we should see our span with the class last modified. But then we can take things one step further. If we go back into our field, we can add in another div which wraps the field items. So let's just add in a div and we'll add in a class called field items just so that we can see it exactly. And then click on update and then click on save. And if we refresh, you can see that now another div is wrapping it. Now let's go back in and let's see how many divs we can actually wrap it. So then we have outer wrapper. So let's now enter in a div element and we'll call this one outer wrapper. And then click on update and then click on save. And then if we refresh, we have another div which wraps the field items, which then wraps the actual field items. And then if we go back into manage display, now this will be the last time, I promise. What you can do is you can add in tokens. So let's click on browse available tokens and let's go to node and let's add in the node ID. So what we can do is at the end of last modified, let's add in -- node -- and then let's enter in node : NID. Okay, so that's getting added in to the end. So let's just close that, click on update, and then click on save. And then if we refresh, our class should be last modified -- then node -- and then the node ID.